Nerġgħu nilqawkom lura l-episodju ieħor ta' Digging Deeper. Illum ħanaqbdu topic forsi naqra kontroversjali, naqra żgħira wkoll forsi ma tantx nitkellmu fuqu, però ħankun qegħdin induru naqra żgħira l-idea ta' mewt tal-ħajja, sort of anka l-esperjenzi ta' forsi pazjenti, professjonisti, kif iduru eżattament ma' dan it-topic. Illum għandna l-magħna lil Dr. Konrad Borġ li forsi stajtina naqra żgħira nsajt aħjar. Ma nafx jekk tintroduċi naqra lilek innifsek.
Ismni Konrad Borġ, għandi 47 sena, miżżewweġ, għandi 3 tfal, ili naħdem l-emergenza 23 sena.
Okay.
So
you've had your experience naqra mhux ħażin. Okay, issa semmejt li lek taħdem l-emergenza, so I assume anka you've met many realities, anka experiences naħseb ikollok. Eżatt. Issa, it's something that you often see. Sort of any qualities that you would associate with working there? I can assume li taħdem l-emerġenza, it's not for everyone, and it's not something that you can deal with, especially for such a long time.
No, pala qualities, definitely you realize it's not for everyone, għax meta n-nies jiġu jduru għandna ikunu tobba żgħar, per eżempju, nurses ikunu fil-bidu, kważi tinduna mill-ewwel jekk bniedem ikollu dik isu l-aptitude li jibqa' jaħdem hemmhekk. Mhux ġast għax hija intense, għax pereżempju l-ITU hija intense immens. Dejjem mal-nies li huma in a critical state. But it's not just the intensity, hemm l-intensità u mbagħad hemm il-pace tax-xogħol. U hemm dik is-sens ta' chaos isa kważi, isu you're always stretched a little bit. Dejjem ħaġa l-oħra.
There's time ukoll against you in the sense ta' the urgency of it, ġifieri dik għalhekk it's fast paced, I assume, li sort of.
Hemm kull ħoġġa ta' pazjenti tul l-emerġenza, hemm għadu jiġi bil-sprained toe, you know? Ġifieri tista' timmaġina jkollna from the worst of the worst. Ħana nkategorizzawhom from 1 to 5. Ġifieri 1 huma they are critical, have to be seen to right away. U dawk mingħajr tlaqli they are seen to right away. So mhux kulħadd vera hemm varjetà enormi u forsi dik parti mill-problema wkoll li you're always sifting għax fost dik il-pile ta' 20-30 pazjent moħbi hemm wieħed li jaf 5 minutes oħra, 10 minutes oħra, u forsi naħseb dik jaħodha most stressful things.
It's a big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility.
Even for you li isek taqta' naqra bej pazjent u ieħor għax tkun għandek kemm ġej minn emerġenza which was something chaotic going on, and then you have to see someone kif qed intib xi sprained toe, ġifieri. I think li teqpa' miegħek ġifieri ħaġa bħal dik, it's not something.
Hemm każijiet li ma tant li kunu traumatic, li ġeneralment ngħidu l-istaff imorru jieħdu kafe, jieħdu break, jitkellmu ftit, whatever. Ġeneralment meta jkunu very traumatic cases enough, mewt ta' tifel per eżempju, jew ta' tfal. Those are always invariably traumatic għal kulħadd. Juru kemm jekk juru li huma traumatic, kemm jekk huma dik karatteri nies li huma ejja mexxu jmorru ħaġa oħra, imma xorta tkun laqtitek in deep. So hemm każijiet fejn ġeneralment ngħidu isma' have a break, most of the cases ikun xikun minn ħaġa l-oħra.
I don't think eżatt li l-każ minnu nnifsu tik ċans li tieħu dak il-break, which leads me to my next point. Naħseb resilienza, it's a quality that you need to have in this job, għax ma naħsibx li it's something li tista' tmur minn każ għal ieħor kif qed tgħid inti tiltaqa' ma' ħafna traumi differenti. You have to be resilient to be able to face all of that in a span of a shift, fil-verità.
You have to be resilient, but resilience it's a big word, u fiha ħafna affarijiet ġo fiha. U resilient kemm kun resilient fil-verità jekk m'għandekx a support structure in your own life, jiġifieri li kemm bħala individwu, kemm bħala nies around you. It catches up on you xorta. Ġifieri tkun resilient kemm resilient, jien niftakar jiena famil dax-xogħol 15 years u hemm ikun hemm każijiet li vera they trouble you. But at one point, if you've done it for long enough, you have to deal with it. Tipproċessa naqra. L-affarijiet li tkun rajt u esperjenzajt. Resilient kemm tkun resilient, ġifieri at one point it does catch up on you. And you have to take stock u tajt isma'.
Part of being resilient is also processing the experience. You need to be ready to be able to process the experience. Għax da bħal kull trauma oħra anke li ma tarax fuq ix-xogħol if you're a person, ġifieri u ġust esperjenza trauma fil-ħajja personali tiegħek. Tista' tkun reżiljenti biżejjed li forsi ma laqtitekx bħal ma laqtet il-ħadd ieħor, però you still need to process it. U I think li having a support system, having something that is stable li tista' tissapportjak because you're doing it professionally u ħadd iltaqa' magħha ta' kuljum. It's not something bħal ma tgħid fil-ħajja personali tiegħek it happened sort of you couldn't expect it. Xogħol tiegħek you're aware li most of the time you're going to find it.
There's also but kind of resilience is also the fruit naħseb tal-esperjenza u knowledge fis-sens li tista' tkun bniem reżiljenti ħafna. Imma jekk każ it's out of your depth and you know li inti tkun out of your depth, you freak out a little bit. Ma esperjenza tiġi iktar calm għax inti taf x'għandek tagħmel. Komplessa kemm tkun komplessa kemm ikun kompless il-każ. U dik hija kważi parti mir-reżiljenza wkoll that isu progressive experience ta' mażmien.
The sense of helplessness fil-verità it's everywhere u timxi miegħek jiġifieri u anke għandek esperjenza the sense of helplessness dejjem ħassibha ma' wiċċek. Mbagħad it depends kif inti timxi magħha sort of jew you let it eat you up u it defeats you. Jew inkella tgħid okay like in this aspect I cannot be helpful jew how can I be helpful in another way jew il-min nista' nibagħthom so they actually can get what they need.
Fortunati fis-sens l-emerġenza li aħna we are the entry point tal-isptar kollu, ġifieri specialties kollha they are there and they are available għalina, ġifieri meta jkollna bżonn nirreferu xi ħadd ieħor. That minimizes helplessness. Kull resource li għanna bżon.
It's a support system on its own.
In its own. Anki, not only just expertise, anki bħala, per eżempju, jina fi għandi bżon CT scan. Emmek jgħad l-scans. I don't feel experience that type of help. So nasab hija parti mir raġuni għaliex inħobb l-emerġenza li I like to have il-lodda kollha at my disposal biex pazjent ikollu x'kollu bżonn. Badna ma minnilu. Ħalli naslu għal konklużjoni ngħinuh. Dik ħaġa li tiġbidni lejn l-emerġenza, tiġbidni lejn l-istar ġenerali. Għax fuq barra in the community l-odda ma limitati. Ġifieri at one point bniedem tista' tgħidlu ħan irreferik. You know?
Is there an experience fejn isa forsi baqgħet miegħek jew meta forsi tista' tgħidilna aktar l-ewwel darba li iglek taħdem l-emerġenza, pero I'm assuming you had your first tgħid naqra ta' xokk sakemm anka you got used to it. Is there something li sabaqat miegħek, something li forsi helped you build who you are today, forsi anka ma' xogħol kif qed inti with experience and with time meta tesperjenzhom aktar u aktar you're able to handle them a lot better.
Imma again xorta tibqa' ngħidha l-ar esperjenzi dejjem jikkonċernaw sa ċertu punt. One of two things, jew it-tfal, jew inkella imwiet, jew sofferenza li hija marbuta ngħidu mal-ħażen, ġifieri murder, violence. Accidents ukoll ma isu accidents it is an accident. Fej kun hemm isu kważi l-ħażen jien naf niftakar kien hemm li raġel tagħha qatilha. Aħna konna qed nippruvaw nsalvaw la ħajjitha. Barra hemm it-tfal tagħha. It's very intense.
I can imagine.
So, kif kelli nala għajna jonajt, xinu ma każijiet li jibqaw f'moħħek, stampati f'moħħek. I have maybe 3 or 4. Waħda wa il-mewt ta' baby li kienet ta' ħabiba tiegħi.
Okay.
So that was in its own way traumatic. Sfortunatament, konti jatemmek meta daħal my brother-in-law kellu extended mutur and bdejt naħdem fuq aħna ħafna rabi meta bdew naħdmu fuq in-nies meta jiġu minn trauma from a trauma jiġu bis-stretcher u kunu marbutin b'mod li inti ġast tara biċċa ta' qudiem ta' wiċċhom biss. U ħafna drabi it's funny, I mean daħal bdejt naħdem fuq u l-qasaraftu mhux għax kien weġġa wiċċu, it's just il-moment, you're so focused.
Because you're focused on
doing your job.
Eżatt, the trauma, the job, not on who the person is. Li sa ċertu punt, it's needed. Għax at that moment in time,
there's no place for emotion.
That's not what's going to help you on doing your job.
Fatti meta kien weġġa t-tifel tiegħek kun isni baħnan. Naqasna nistaqsuni, inġibru ambulanza, Iva, le, Iva. Ma kontx niswa għal xejn.
I mean, naħseb anka, nista' nimmaġina that's why it's a rule li anka meta jiġu nies very close to you ma taħdimx magħhom għax there's that bias li sort of this is someone that you care about hemm ċertu u kif qed inti your thoughts aren't ħanar kif ħanejnu sort of it's this and this, it's being biased, it's being flooded with other feelings, other emotions għax you're feeling the trauma as well fil-verità għax qed taffettwak. Ġifieri I can understand li isek anka as a job on its own, specialment Malta, meta ngħidu Malta żgħira u mhux l-ewwel darba li forsi tiltaqa' ma' xi ħadd li minn hemm u minn hawn tafu, it's difficult to have to step out of your shoes as you know someone personally and to do your job professionally.
Thank God, I mean, it's something that happens every day. Ma, having said, nasab kutkellem kulħadd l-emerġenza, hemm pattern li meta jgħidu JCPR minn fej, taslima, minn fej. And you, f'moħħok ġaqet.
Tamen naqra, you put the puzzle together.
Jek ux relative tijak, missierek, ommok, someone you know, ġifiri, nasib kullħat għandu dik il-ftit esperienza li għamela di.
Issa, kifet nejdu sort of ħafna mill-pazjenti li jitlu għandek, it's most of the time life-threatening situations, u jew kunu deħlin kollhom bżonn imorru għal xi operazzjoni fejn it's life or death, jew dak il-ħin stess it's life or death sort of.
Again, perception tkun li sul emergenza we're always dealing in the critical of the critical. Fil-verità, I would say li critical are a minority. Jihdulek ħafna ħin. They are the workload. Ikollok team sħiħ jaħdem fuq pazjent wieħed għandu numru ta' sigħat. Ġifieri imma bħala numri il-maġġoranza tal-pazjenti jitru mhix critical at that point in time. Ġifieri so mhix li ħana qegħdin il-ħin kollu dealing in life or death. Alla ħares kienek ta'.
No, għax I think you nkara tispiċċaw għax inti mbagħad trid tħadu biex tpatti l-oħra.
Ftit, you have to take a step back.
Eżatt. Imma anka xaġa li forsi ma nafx jekk ninnotaħħi xien, amma ħafna darbi kif eżempju jkollu xi relatives tiegħi jew xi ħadd ikollu xi accident gravi jew isalva illallu thank God, miraklu. Do you often find that mal-pazjenti li qishom they attribute their sort of isu imnalla lej something maybe higher milli t-tobaġ li ngħidu okay, thank God, ma tabib li jagħmel ix-xogħol?
I don't think they're exclusive in a sense of kif Alla jistajn edha bil-ħmar, tajni ġifiri biex jagħmel affarijiet kbar, ġifiri, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Għana nixtieq nista' ngħidlek li nagħmlu ħafna ħin mal-pazjenti wara, li nkunu nistgħu npoġġu magħhom nista' ngħidlek l-expressions kollha tagħhom wara. Iktar kważi jiġu lura b'xi ħaġa oħra ma' xi ħadd ieħor. U jħarsu lejk jgħidu intarba kont salvajtni or whatever, they're big words ta' għana ħadd fl-emerġenza naħseb ma jħares lejhin lilu nnifsu bħala salvajt il-xaħat, għamilt il-parti tiegħi biex jentu bniedem għax salvajt hija kelma kbira jisa, taf kif ma morx salvaw from a burning building u lajtu mill-ħadd tal-mewt, taf kif you're part of a team which has helped and contributed.
Infatti jekk kont ħanejdlek, it's nice ukoll għax bla the connection hija li you feel like you're part of something, li there is a unit, there is a team behind it, li ħadd ma jagħmel xejn waħdu, which circles back to the support system fil-verità within the professional world.
Totally. Mingħajr dik anke jekk tidħol emerġenza, biex one of the characteristics li tinduna li in-nies jiċċawta ħafna ma' xulxin. It is a coping strategy.
Yes.
Jiġifieri ewwel ħares ma kienx hekk.
Le, mhux hekk, I mean, given that you see a lot of negativity, forsi anke ma tgħidx nothing major, traumatic, imenti dejjem taffaċċja nies li huma miġuwa in one way or another. Ġifieri anke jekk sirt idejja xorta miġuwa mdejqa fim qed nibki minix ħaniġi għandek ferħana.
Il-customer base tagħna huwa naqra.
Eżatt, ġifieri bla ma tgħid you're dealing with a lot of negativity u trying to be positive for those people, it's draining fil-verità. You need to get back a bit what you give out. Ġifieri I think it's important ukoll kif qed inti li mnalla the situation is li you don't deal with traumas all the time, għax li kieku your battery naħseb tispiċċa negative zeros, għunu mux forsi.
Incredibly kif l-ħardek, għamilna survey reċenti tal-emerġenza, just to get a feel tat-tobba tal-emerġenza. U għad mistoqsijiet sa' sejn kienet għaliex inġbiet l-emerġenza. Top 2, practically għal kulħadd, hija il-closeness and the camaraderie u il-sens ta' team u ħbiberija li hemm bejnietna. That is priority għal-nies li għażlu l-emerġenza. Because there is that atmosphere, ħafna sens ta' I'm not surprised li, per esempio, soldati li morru għal-gwerra jispiċċaw isom aħwa. Because in such intense situations, you build a bond isek. Li tkun vera tkun deep, it goes beyond friendship in some ways.
Yes, or it's a type of job fejn there has to be vocation in it. Ġiri mux mort l-università, ġibt il-degrees, ġibt il-masters, whatever, you got your qualifications, applikajt, aċċettajt u tħalt naħdem. It's not your regular 9 to 5 job li tħalt għamilt trofis, għamilt responsabilta tiegħi u tlaqt. There has to be a certain vocation to it, għax kif għettejt inti, anka you need to be a team player, you need to be able to bond ma dawk ta' warajk, ta' madwarek, għax it's something li fil-verità you're not going to take it home either, għax tal-familja, they're not going to understand you bħal kollega tiegħek ħajfmek, għax he's been in your shoes, he's been in your situation, mux bħal mami u bħal partner, as in they don't really understand why. U I think that's what makes it very unique għalfejn it's difficult to find someone that fits, that wants to be in that job.
It's part of it, and I do export, because mbagħad hemm fatturi li huma just human factors. I mean, I note il-ġenerazzjoni tal-żgħażagħ illum, their well-being is really very importanti.
Yes.
A sense of well-being, work-life balance, etc. U fil-hierarchy ta' x'inhu importanti għalija meta nażel karriera, well-being and work-life balance are very important. Issa hemmhekk aħna we don't score very high.
Nista nimmaġina. I mean, fej kif għedna fej tidħol vocation sek bla ma trid you're a bit more forsi in it milli kif għedna l-ewwel sort of just you go and you do your job.
Having said that, jekk nista' bħala bilanċ ukoll fis-sessin il-fatt li inti rajt pazjent, you did your best, but they went on, ma baqax responsabilità tiegħek. There is some relief in that. Għax inti per meta kollok pereżempju tkun tabib l-isptar, daħal pazjent taħtek huwa pazjent tiegħek, għadha ħatmut ġa ssibu. That responsibility is continuous. Meta nagħlaq qalbi mur id-dar, ma tafx
eżatt għax you didn't leave anything behind, sort of nothing's ever unfinished fil-verità.
It's a plus mbagħad.
Vera, it's nice to know li sort of, I can imagine anke min-naħa ta' pazjent ġifieri, I can imagine li it's scary li tkun qiegħed f'sitwazzjoni fejn qiegħed f'sitwazzjoni fejn ħajja u mewt, però seeing a team, seeing people work on atminti sort of qiegħed hemm u mbagħad naraw kif ħanirranġaw sort of, that's very reassuring, that's the support mbagħad li again, the support system li it supports not just you, anka the patient, the person, whoever is going through it fil-verità. It's nice to look at it from a positive perspective, għax kultant kif nitkellmu mal-emergenza u mal-ewwel il-lallu min jaf, and the negativity starts pouring in ta' min jaf xjaraw, min jaf kemm it's fast-paced. Però mill-pożittiv li joħroġ minna that builds on you as a person li xi ħaġa bħal mewt u xi ħaġa bħal trauma u affarijiet hekk, they do leave behind these traces, and it's nice to see li fil-verità anka from professional's point of view, it's there, it's present, mhux xi ħaġa li anka pazjent biss iġor miegħu.
Waħda mill-privileġġi naħseb taħdem fil-mediċina ġenerali, ma ovvjament iktar ma jkun intens ngħidu ix-xogħol, u l-fatt li anke tiltaqa' mal-mewt, issa xi ħanajt ħanitkellem f'isem sabi kollha, ġifieri not at all. Qed nitkellem bħala Konrad biss. It is like a life lesson every day, ġifieri fis-sens li jien naf tal-familja tiegħi jgħidulek isni bla meta tpoġġi biex nikol Christmas lunch dejjem ngħid kemm hu sewwa qegħdin hawn. Kemm inħossni grat li qegħdin hawn kulħadd
You've seen the other extreme, or you've seen the other side.
Every day. This tantem room for gratitude. Every day of life is a gift. Ġiri, per eżempju, niskon l-esperjenza meta mur funeral. Tajt tiqaf tirrifletti għax il-ħajja maġna, kif ma jkollokx ċans tirrifletti u tapprezza. It's such an opportunity meta inti tkun imdawwar b'daw l-affarijiet ta' kuljum biex flok they pass you by.
Tapprezzhom naqra aktar, it gives you a different point of view, it gives you a different perspective. Issa xi ħaġa bħal di meta titfaċċa ħafna, titfasib ma' wiċċek ħafna mewt batija, it might lead you to question certain things fil-ħajja tgħid sort of għax batija xaw il-mewt. Has it ever impacted you forsi it gave you doubts jew anka with the afterlife? Is it something li ġili did it cross over?
It invariably crosses over, I mean, tmisma l-mewt u ma' sofferenza tkun vera tittala għajnejk biex ma saqsix mistoqsijiet eżistenzjali. You have to ask them. Again, kważi taffaxxinani kemm in-nies overtly forsi ma jsaqsuhomx, ġifieri meta nkun nkellem il-kollegi tiegħi hemm minnhom they ask them more than others. There's definitely hemm spectrum fiha, ġifieri hemm min jagħmlu impatt kbir fuq and they lead them to question. Hemm min isu 6-12. Taf kif? But yes, it does. I mean, in my case, I mean, tħares li sofferenza u it can lead you to a place. Fatti, mi nifsi ngħid, I found that it can lead to 3 ways in a way, ultimately. You can become a hedonist, tgħix għal-moment. Issa, li jemmem għada ġol kaxxa u għajx għallum. You can make a lot of mistakes like that. There's a good thing, hemm tajjeb fija x'ta prezza tgħix il-moment u fl-istess sin tista' ma' deċiżjonijiet li they're not necessarily the healthiest options, choices. You can, but what worries me most meta spiċċa fatalist, tajt sa mhux xorta kollox għal xejn. And it is a dangerous place, a dark place. So and then there's obviously, and then there's faith as well, you know, there's faith. In my case, fil-każ tiegħi, it is critical and central to my existential questions because an afterlife gives you an enormous sense of purpose, enormous sense of meaning, not always clear. It's not always easy to understand. Għaliex hemm is-sofferenza, qas nipprova nweġibha. Tant hija mistoqsija komplessa.
And I think if we were able to understand it and answer it, we wouldn't be in certain situations li għedin illum, fis-sens hemm ħafna affarijiet that we don't understand for a reason. Fis-sens li jekk nistgħu nifhmu kollox, then we can solve practically anything. B'dak ir-raġunar, ġifieri, and some things li kanna anke semmejnija f'podcast li għaddew. There are certain things where we have to accept li forsi it is a bit out of our bounds. Specialment when we don't even stop to understand ourselves, pero we try to understand things that are much bigger minna. U jiena milli isni nħoss li jiġri, we end up fixating on such a detail fil-verità. If I'm going to fixate on understanding something so complex bħal mewt, bħal tbatija. Però, if there isn't one thing, m'hemmx l-oħra, philosophically speaking, jekk m'hemmx tbatija, we're not going to experience the beauty of it, sabiħ tal-ħajja, il-ferħ, is-saħħa, sort of being healthy. Jekk qatt ma esperjenzajna l-mewt, ma nistgħux napprezzaw dak li għandna meta aħna ħajjin. So, it's a very big thing fejn isna nippruvaw we understand such a complexity. Però I think we can get too much wrapped up in it.
I must admit, iktar nsib li it-tendenza nis jaħarbu mill-mistoqsija kważi, there is a sense of running away from the questions regarding that. Issa fil-verità, jekk hemm xi ħaġa li hija ċerta hija li xi darba ħamutu, it is a certainty. Fjus hemm ftit ċertezzi fil-ħajja, dik ċertezza assoluta. U issu kważi issu look away, nħabu taħt it-tapit. U maħniex imdorrina se bħala kultura, bħala soċjetà li konna konverzazzjoni fuqha, because it's a very important conversation to have. Is-sens ta' escapism dwar il-mewt is a habit that then you keep, unfortunately, tibqa' sejra anke fi xuħija, which is not the right time to have an escapist problem with that, you know. Santi, għal-ħin li wieħed jieqaf, you take stock and say, okay, ħanibda nagħmel ħbieb mal-idea, you know, u l-implikazzjonijiet tagħha. Taf kif, imma pasab, I feel that as a culture, we're really in dawr wiċċna jisna. Suġġett in dawr wiċċna. It is uncomfortable. It's a difficult subject.
Yes, pero mat kifet inti jisek we tend to be, jow ħanix as if today is my last day, ħanamel dak kollu li nixtieq, pero tista' ddur kontri għax kifet inti fil-verità you do have to plan things ahead, to have motivations, to have goals, and that is what gives you purpose fil-verità. Imma mbagħad
anki fejn some relationships,
Eżatt.
Sacrifice is a place in building anything that's sometimes worthwhile, from a family to a career to a project, If you live for today, you're not going to undergo the sacrifices necessary biex għadha pitada tilħaq dak lan. Tista' tkun għan relazzjonali, tista' jkun għan ta' karriera ta' proġett.
Eżatt. And you can also go the other way fejn kif qed tgħid inti sort of we avoid the entire thing meta xi kultant we associate il-mewt meta nixxieħu hekk, però kif qed inti it's going to happen when we don't really know. We need to find that balance of maybe not ignoring it daqs li kieku minix ħammut, pero lanqas li qed nistennija li ħad tiġini għada, għax it can create a lot of barra l-stress. It takes over your purpose, għax you're replacing it fil-verità with this whole idea of dying, not having anything. Issa, palma semmejt inti sort of...
Nasib memx, nasib in-nies ma jsibux kontest fej diskutu s-suġġett b'mod healthy, u mux necessarjament mod negattiv. I think that's lacking u koll. Ġifiri, memx kontest fej wieħed jista' jsaqsi mistoqsija, mux bil-fors ħajsib risposta, imma ħajesplora s-suġġett. U nasib dawk l-opportunitajiet huma ristritti ħafna.
And especially naħseb when it comes, palma semmejt inti what fate is to you and what a role it played fl-esperjenza tiegħek, fil-karriera tiegħek. Gina anka nitkellem eżempju minn ħatijaj personali, kif insemmi li għax għandi l-fidi, temmen falla li joħloq didbatija kollha, temmen falla li ħallik taddi minn da kollu.
It's a good question.
And there were moments where it made me wonder, ġivri mux ħanikdeb, there were moments fej I was like, għandhom raġun, sort of this very almighty God li nsemmu li jħobbna, li... U meta tara vera minn sofferenza, għax when you have certain experiences fej tgħid il-lallu. I'm very privileged in my position compared to other people. Jina nitkellem meta eżempju għamilt volontarjat u hekk laqtitni ħafna. It does make you wonder, have you ever had those moments fejn it doubted it, jew it made you wonder?
I must admit, fuq il-livell razzjonali, is-sens li wieħed naħseb jagħmel question mark kif jista' jkun Alla huwa all powerful, jiġifieri jista' jagħmel li jrid. All loving, jiġifieri he means well, u fl-istess ħin ikun hemm is-sofferenza. There is invariably an apparent contradiction fiha. Jew contradiction, jew apparent contradiction. Fuq level personali, I'm quite sure li kieku m'hemmx is-salib, li I just can look. Issa nħares lej salib f'Ġesu, Alla li jibati, li hija kontradizzjoni fiha nifisha. It-tieni wens li qisu kon mhux qed tifhem kollox, li hemm dimensjoni mhux qed tara. U li fl-aħħar mill-aħħar meta kollha nagħlqu għajnejna jafhem post li kif jgħid Ġesu m'hemmx biki, m'hemmx dwejja. And that would be justice in the end. Jekk hemm post bħal dak, minkejja sofferenza transitorja li hemm hawn, jaf xorta mbagħad hemm xorta ġustizzja, xorta hemm sens li inħarsu lura ngħid u hija.
That idea li there's something after, li sort of all of this is going to mean something, li I've had also questions fejn ġili qalu li imma fejn, sort of what's the reason. U jina, darba like what came in my head is, what do I have to lose? To believe that there's something after, to believe that what I'm going through, my experience here, ħasservini, it's going to matter in a way, sort of, I only see positives coming out of it. This whole idea of the afterlife, it's very touch and go man nies, għax min jgħidlek iva, sort of ngħix ħajja tajba biex imbagħad ikolli ħajja tajba wara, u mbagħad ikun hemm min jgħidlek sort of x'inhu l-punt biex ngħix ħajja tajba wara u l-ħajja li qed ngħix issa mhijiex.
I think, to be honest with you, if you had to distill it, night, okay. Tistajt ċertezza li hemm ħajja wara l-mewt? Definitely not. And jien ħabba li xjentista, when I think of proof, I want empirical proof. Having said that, ma nasibx li all knowledge is empirical knowledge, in the sense that there is knowledge which is sometimes just a sense, sometimes an interior, let's put it this. There are ways of knowing which aren't always empirical. which can be tested in a lab, which can be found. And if it boils down to it, kelli ngħid għaliex nemmen fil-ġenna. Nemmen fil-ġenna fuq livell personali għax nemmen f'Ġesu. That's if I had to say it in a simple way, mela nemmen f'Ġesu. Ġesu qal dak li qal, wet dak li wet, and I have staked my life on it. That is where my gamble has gone. Qed nifhem il-punt tiegħek li kind of Pascal kien għamel Pascal's wager, li basically, kellek ma tkunx taf, aħjar you bet fuq dak li mhux ħadd titlef xejn minnu. U tagħmel sens, it's a very utilitarian way of looking at it, however. Ġifieri jekk bniedem irid ikun kind of emmin, right, isma' jien għandi bżonn xi forma ta' inkoraġġiment biex nemmen biex nagħmel dak il-pass tal-fidi. And I don't think I would look at the question. I would look at the person who made the statement. Ġifieri kelli ngħid hemm triq biex wieħed isir jagħmel deċiżjoni, I wouldn't, ma nifokax kieku fuq il-mistoqsija, nifoka iktar fuq il-persuna ta' Ġesu fuq x'qal milli fuq il-mistoqsija stess.
Which I think you can also apply to meta you're talking with someone, ġifieri, fis-sens as an experience, jista' jkun I have a certain outlook on life for a reason, u you have a certain outlook on life for another reason, però dejjem ħassejta li it's all about perspective fil-verità. When I was going through a very difficult time, when bil-Malti bdejt nħoss li jiġri kollox ħażin, where the doubt of kif edna l-ewwel, why is there this almighty God u Alla jbierek kollox qed imur ħażin. Speċjalment kont ngħid mela jiena I do my things, I do everything I can to inkompli nitma' u nkompli nkabbar il-fidi tiegħi, and this is what I get in return.
It's totally understandable.
After I got through it, I was like, the reason that I got through it, I believe he was there with me. I don't think I would have been able to go through it li kieku kont waħdi, li kieku I did not have that support. And I do understand that that's difficult for some people to grasp. Għax anke jien dak il-ħin I couldn't understand it, and it took me years to realize li jisma' what gave me the strength, what I believed pushed me, and what I believe helped me out of it was his presence, mhux in-nuqqas tiegħu. And I realized li it's all about perspective, għax jekk nerta ħares lejha negattiv, I can turn the situation u ndawwar anything in the negative li abbandonani, I'm on my own, I don't have anything, il-fidi ma tiswa xejn.
L-unika kind of danger tal-kelma perspettiva hija li ddaħħal element relativizmu fiha, fis-sens that kind of like, so ultimately, jew fil-verità, jew hemm jew m'hemmx Alla, u jew jimpurtaħ jew ma jimpurtax. Ma nasibx li there is a way in between, so somewhere there is truth, and we must pursue it. We have to irridu nfittxuha, għax li waħda nasib mill-iktar perikli filosofiċi esistenzjali hija l-fatt, my truth, your truth. There is such a thing as truth. Anke jekk il-verità hija li għadha ma jeżistix, imma lanqas jekk nistgħu naqblu li hemm verità li nistgħu nfittxuha u nsibuha, I think it's already bdejna vera tajjeb. Ħalli mhux għax l-iktar ħaġa kważi odjuża li hija tkun li my truth, your truth, bħalli kieku fuq livell naturali hija vera ħaġa ma tagħmilx sens, jew ix-xemx taħraq jew ma taħraqx. Jew ma nafx, jew gravity pulls you down or it doesn't. Hemm affarijiet li huma fatwali u l-ebda ammont ta' opinjoni ma ħadbiddilha. U l-istess ħaġa ġifieri ma jeżisti ma jeżistix. That is at least a logical truth. Hemm dik verità razzjonali ħadd ma jista' jmerja. Mhux qed ngħid li Alla jeżisti, ma naqas jekk naqas nibdew mill-idea li nistgħu nfittxu u nsibu ħaġa li hija reali, and it's not just down to personal opinion. Ikun bdejna, naħseb ikunu bdejna mixja li suġġett vera importanti u għalaqas hemm ċans naslu konklużjoni għalaqas fuq livell personali.
Eżatt. Kif qed inti sort of there needs to be a space. Irdu nagħtu il-lok li I believe it's a very big factor għalfejn għandna ma wasalniex sem. Mill-opinjoni tiegħi anke looking at a local level għaw Malta, kif semmejna l-ewwel l-idea ta' mewt is very much avoided u sort of nieħdu mal-ewwel l-idea ta' negattività, pessimizmu, sort of dwejja li I understand. It's understandable. But we need to be able to sit down and look at all of it, not the sad part of it biss. Li fil-verità, and I've met people li out of death, out of tragedy, ħarġu ħafna affarijiet sbieħ, they become their own person, ħafna aktar u aktar mill-li kienu qabel. And we need to be able to credit that as well. Mux natu il-kredtu bista id-dwejja tal-pessimizmu, so there are, funnily enough, positives to it. So we've mentioned many different aspects, and I think it's one of those topics li bil-Malti naħseb id-dum kemm id-dum titkellem fuq, you never really grasp naqra fuq li ma triqħat mura, you can look at it from many different point of views. Pero what is something li forsi anka bħala messaġġ li isek trid tmexxi or something that you live by and you try to give it to others about what you face, about what you go through, not just maybe on a professional level, but even on a personal level, li kuhu kelli ngħidlek you sum it down, what would it be?
Nax mistoqsija kbira di. Can you narrow it a little bit?
Okay, if there's something li ħadd mill-esperjenza tiegħek li faċċajt ħafna affarijiet, x'inhi dik il-ħaġa li kieku you try to pass on to others, kif qed not just on a professional level, manka forsi personal, kif semmejna forsi the perspective on that,
I mean, huwa suġġett importanti nitkellmu fuq il-mewt, but I think on a personal level, kif qed nitkellmu qabel, not to underestimate, your need for love. Mm-hmm. You need everybody. Kulħadd għandu bżonn, if there's jekkem ħaġa li hija absolute uniform shared human factor, huwa li għandek bżonn, you need to be loved. Now, għandha dimensjoni spirituali, li forsi wieħed irid tifittxa li fil-każ tiegħek kienet importanti ħafna, li bidem jesperjenza l-imħabba talla. Hemm dimensjoni għal minnu forsi jagħti u li huwa just umana. And you just have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge your weaknesses. Kienem awtur tajjeb ħafna, Henry Ewan kien jismu. U he was a very deep man u kien għadda minn ħafna. U kien dejjem jiġi analoġija tal-iljun u l-naġa. Kien jgħid kind of like kulħadd għandu l-iljun u l-naġa. Sa aħna ngħixu f'soċjetà fejn tkun b'saħħtek, you have to be extroverted, you have to be successful. Imma kien qal xi ħaġa li vera laqtitni qal your genius u kien qed jgħidha mhux b'mod intellettwali bħal IQ, your genius as in your unique character mhix ma tinstabx fl-iljun, tinstab fin-naġa. The more you reject it, the more you are rejecting possibly some of the most beautiful and unique gifts of that person that you are. Allura, kind of like, it all ties in, like, that if they have a space, you can like post fejt inti tista' tkun maħbub, post fejt tkun vulnerabli. And tista' post fejt inti tista' tiskopri lek innifsek u tipproċessa wkoll ħafna minn dawk l-affarijiet. Dawk id-daqqiet li tieħu ta' kuljum.
Eżatt.
Li tik il-ħajja.
Palma semmejna l-ewwel isu sort of you cannot really experience and appreciate one thing if you don't have the other, as in philosophically speaking, sort of if you need to experience and have strength, you need to embrace what makes you weak as well. Thank you ħafna tal-li ħatna f'dan il-vjaġġ. Interessanti ħafna on a professional, personal level mill-esperjenza tiegħek anka bħala tabib f'ambjent fejn it's chaotic u ssib ħafna minn dawn l-affarijiet ma' wiċċek. U ningrazzjawk ħafna ta' xogħolok u tal-team kollu tiegħek u the system that you have going on. Aħna minna ħatana bħala youths, bħala thank you għamennilek dal-frame, għamlu zazuħ mill-komunità tagħna Isaac, illustration tiegħek bħala remembrance u bħala thank you.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Tal-li ġejkt.
Wow, thank you, I love it.
You're welcome, thank you inti. Grazzi ħafna ta' din il-dimensjoni ġdida li tħallna fija, kif għedna topic li kieku ma nifqux nitkellmu fuqu. Grazzi ħafna lil min qed jismana u lil min samana fil-poddati li għaddew. Ninkoraġukom taraw dawk li għaddew u nistennewkom u nerġgħu nkellmukom f'dak li jmiss. Grazzi ħafna.